Climate change is one of the greatest challenges of our time, and not only endangers our future lives. Many animals on our planet are already under direct threat. Climate change is changing the habitats of many animal species at an unprecedented pace and is posing enormous challenges to biodiversity. Today, we take a closer look at how climate change is endangering animals and their habitats. Welcome to Erklärwürdig, worth explaining. Climate change refers to the long-term change in the Earth's temperature and weather patterns, primarily due to the increasing concentration of greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide and methane. These emissions, especially from fossil fuels, are altering natural climate patterns. But how does this change affect animals? Animals are adapted to certain climatic conditions and habitats. When these conditions change, they can either adapt or have to move. However, the climate is changing faster than the animal's biological systems allow. Animals depend on specific habitats determined by climate zones. As these climate zones shift, many of these habitats disappear. For example, polar bears are losing their homes as Arctic sea ice melts at an ever-increasing rate. They must travel greater distances to hunt and reproduce. At the same time, tropical animals such as monkeys and birds find that habitats in the lower elevations of tropical rainforests become too hot and dry, and so they must migrate to higher, cooler regions. The polar regions are particularly affected by climate change. The polar bear, a symbol of the effects of climate change, depends on the sea ice to hunt seals. But the warming of the Arctic is melting the ice and reducing the habitat of these animals. The consequences are dramatic. Polar bears have to swim increasingly long distances to find food, and the survival rate of their young is falling. In the Antarctic, penguins are also struggling with the changed conditions. The warming of the seas is leading to a reduction in their food sources and endangering their breeding grounds. Rainfall patterns are shifting in the tropics. Droughts and extremely heavy rainfall are becoming more frequent. These changes are having a dramatic impact on the animals that live here. For animals such as the Sumatran tiger or various species of monkeys, the habitat is becoming increasingly smaller. Trees, which serve as a source of food and shelter, are threatened by increasing periods of drought and deforestation. The loss of rainforests also means the loss of food resources for many animals, which leads to a shortage of populations and endangers the survival of species. Another serious problem of climate change affects the reproduction of many animals. In reptiles, such as turtles, the temperature of the sand determines the sex of the offspring. Too high temperatures lead to an overpopulation of females, which can cause an imbalance between the sexes, and this in turn leads to a reduced reproductive potential. Many bird species also depend on the seasons to determine their migration routes, but climate change is shifting these seasonal patterns, causing animals to migrate to their breeding grounds at the wrong time. The lack of synchronization between food supply and reproduction is another threat. Climate change affects not only animals on land, but also life in our oceans. The warming of the seas and the acidification of the water through the absorption of carbon dioxide are leading to a dramatic decline in coral. Coral reefs are the oases of the ocean. They provide a habitat for a huge number of marine creatures. When the corals bleach and die, fish, sea turtles, and many other marine species lose their habitat. Without the coral reefs, biodiversity in the sea is seriously threatened. Climate change is exacerbating existing threats to wildlife. Habitat destruction through human activities, poaching, and marine pollution have long been a global problem, which is exacerbated by global warming. Wildlife is not only struggling with the loss of its natural habitats, but also with the increase in natural disasters such as droughts, floods, and fires. But there is hope. Climate protection is also about protecting species. By reducing carbon dioxide emissions, protecting natural habitats, and using sustainable practices, we can mitigate climate change and thus ensure the survival of many animal species. Every single measure counts, whether it is supporting nature conservation organizations, promoting renewable energies, or changing our consumer behavior. Climate change is one of the greatest threats to animal species on our planet, but we can still act. Together, we can stop climate change and preserve biodiversity on our planet. It's up to each and every one of us. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more knowledge-based content.